tell you about the state budget? I don't want to. Forgot. Yeah, doesn't go with the uniform. So, all right, you guys ready? Well, you tell me when you're ready, Bob. And I had to put my glasses on because I made some notes that were so small I can't see them without my glasses. So, you guys good? Okay. So thanks, guys, for coming. Apologize for not having Friday's update, but there were things that were moving that I wanted to make sure everybody understood, and it gave us a couple extra days to get the last things lined up related to that. I want to just start out, just reflect and give you a little bit of perspective, because now that we've got things moving on track, I've had the chance to reflect on a couple things. I just want to give you my perspective, and then I'll get into specifics of where we are with nuts and bolts and updates, talk about a couple of good things moving forward, and then we'll answer questions. If I can't get you the answer now, I'll get you the answers as quickly as possible. So one of the things I want to make sure we, from a state perspective, kind of don't lose sight of is we've had a lot of focus on RISE and things related to that specifically, but I went back and looked and worked with several of our volunteer groups. There are 1,624 cases under the VOAD, Neighbors Loving Neighbors, faith-based organization support volunteer group system that have been closed out as of today. So I think it's important we go back and look at, take the governor thing out of it, Jim Justice, Neighbors Loving Neighbors, the Council of Churches, the unions, the volunteers from everywhere. A lot of people have put blood, sweat, and tears and a lot of time and effort into making sure that people were getting cared for. So we've got to make sure, again, that we recognize those people and those groups and what has occurred. And Habibi Mamone, another one, her and then again Jim Justice as Jim Justice, and getting that moving and helping us. That's the Council of Churches and all the faith-based groups, the union halls, all those people. From my perspective of now getting a chance to look at this, I can't say enough about all those people. So I just want to make sure we've got that in perspective. 1,624 cases have been closed because of a lot of people and a lot of hard work. So where are we today? So as it relates to the housing specific piece of RISE, we are still working 435 cases. And I'm going to break those down for you, and then I'll get into some more specifics. So 163 of those cases we've assessed to need reconstruction, so complete reconstruction. 157 are rehabilitations, and they range from minor rehabilitation to major rehabilitation. 109 mobile home replacements, and 6 cases that my folks are still out assessing and working with numbers and contractors and other people to understand where those 6 need to fall in one of those categories. There are 49 cases in construction right now. So that's from final permitting to setting the foundation to check off. And we don't consider something complete until my folks have gone out and done the final assessment piece and said it's good to go. So 17 complete, 1 that they tell me will be completed in the next 2 days, so that gets us up to 18. So where are we and what are we doing as far as moving forward. So a couple of key things have happened, and part of the reason we delayed till today. We have completed and have been approved by HUD for one major substantial amendment to the action plan, which allows us to do subgrants. And I'll talk about that specifically in a minute. One technical amendment to the action plan that allows us to make a change. The way the action plan was originally written, it only allowed for single-wide mobile home replacement units. We've got families that can't fit into a single-wide mobile home replacement, but because of the way the action plan was written, we had to go back and make a change to the action plan. So now we can, for those families that require them and are eligible, we'll be able to do the double-wide piece. So that's a big piece for us. Just, again, my perspective, sounds like a simple thing, right? But I'm dealing with state and federal bureaucracy. So it takes time to get things done. I mentioned the 17 are complete. The one will be done this week. We have representatives from VOAD, Appalachian Service Project, and the Housing Development Fund that are here today, all who have executed today with us sub-recipient grants, and I'll talk a little bit about those. For VOAD, it's going to be for finishing up with us the case management process, that consolidated case management process that I talked about. And also, VOAD has a nationally recognized bridge program. It's been recognized by FEMA and a number of others, and we have 133 bridges that we've identified that are single family or multi-family bridges that are private that we need to help address to help families get whole again. Their house may not have been flooded, but they have to cross a creek in order to get groceries across the creek. So those two have been executed with VOAD. Appalachian Service Project, we've executed a sub-grant recipient piece with them. They are going to take on the 157 rehabilitations. They've got boots on the ground as we stand here today, and they are partnered with a number of different faith-based organizations that they've worked with on those other 1,624, along with a bunch of other folks I see here today, and those people are going to start rocking. So I think we're going to start to see, as we update you weekly now, you're going to start to see some numbers click off in a lot greater capacity than they have in the past. We're also executing today an intergovernmental agreement through the sub-grant process with the Housing Development Fund. I reached out along with Jeff Wood and folks from the governor's staff to Housing Development Fund, and we have a component in this plan for multifamily housing, and then we have another for rental that are owned by a landlord and rented to someone. We need to get a handle on that, pull it together, make sure we put them in the right places as we redevelop communities and make sure people get taken care of. And Eric and those folks have that expertise to help us identify that and then also put those pieces in place, which relieves some other pressure off of contracting pieces and things of that nature. So before you won't see a multifamily unit being built like tomorrow. What you're going to see is an analysis of us looking holistically across the governor's plan for redeveloping the state's economy and communities, and within that region, figuring out how we best leverage that money to make sure we do the things that he's got envisioned for us to achieve from a redevelopment standpoint for these communities, which is something he reinforces to me on a regular basis. So we've got those that have been executed. Thanks to support with, and I want to point out that we now have, I think, hopefully you guys agree, we have regular communication with you guys in the press. We're regularly engaged with the legislature. We're talking with the state auditor. We're talking with a whole bunch of other agencies, from the historic preservation folks, the DEP, the DHHR. So we've got the communication flow, I believe, in a point where if I'm in charge of an emergency response, I would tell you right now I'm happy with the flow of communication that we got going right now across agencies and with organizations and with you guys. If you guys aren't happy with it, I'm sure you'll let me know, right? And I do want to point out too, you guys have been important in, and I'll use Bob and Kenny because they examples that come to me, but a bunch of others have done the same thing. You guys see something, you're calling and saying, hey, do you know about that? Are you guys aware of it? As opposed to saying, look what these guys missed again. So I think that's a great thing, and I appreciate it from give us a chance to figure out things because there's still things out there that we don't know. So I think that's been exceptional. So the communication piece I think is working. A lot of engagement with purchasing and the auditors, both state auditor and legislative auditors, to make sure as we get this contract piece where it goes, we've got it so everybody's in agreement that we, the state, are going in the right direction. So we're pushing that and moving it forward. We've streamlined the case management process. A couple of good examples. Again, you guys call and say, hey, we found somebody that they say they're going to be out of a place to live by Friday. Get a name, address, contact information. It hits case management, and if somebody has to be put in a hotel, somebody's getting put in a hotel. So those kind of things are going on and moving, I think, exceptionally well. We're going to continue to maintain that regular communication. I'm talking regular with the two leaders of the legislative committee, the flood committee, Senator Gaunch and Delegate Hanshaw, and I will tell you they've been nothing but helpful and saying, hey, tell me what we can do to help run interference. So I believe that's working well. Just so you know, we've completed 116 additional environmental reviews and assessments, so that's getting us tracking where we need to go. And my wife's good about making sure, hey, you tell them all the things you got done, tell them what you missed. So here's one thing that we are going to jump on next week to make sure that we get moving. We have a project in Clendenin in Kanawha County. It's listed in the action plan. It's still got a couple of bureaucratic things that are holding us to be able to sub-grant some dollars to Kanawha County to get a building open that has 8 apartment units in it and get a community focus back onto things. So that is one that Jeff and I will be working diligently next week to stay on top of. Couple other things that have transpired. We have put a number of new contracts out. Just to give you an update, bids closed yesterday on 2 contract solicitations. One is the mobile home replacement units, and I understand that there were 2 bidders according to state purchasing on that. So we'll be working to see where they go and score and what they do and tell us. And then on the slum and blight demolition piece, we have 4, and those are divided by regions, but we have 4 total bidders statewide, so we'll be waiting to work for that. The comment period for the reconstruction contracts will close on Tuesday the 14th, and then we'll get the bid process moving and the bid opening. So lots of movement going on related to that as well. And then I guess the last thing, and then I'll open it up to questions. Again, hopefully you guys have seen lots of stuff over the last 60 days. A lot of things that, again, my opinion, had we not done what we'd done as the state and had the governor not done what he'd done related to, hey, hold on, stop, tell me where we're at. Okay, National Guard, you got the lead, take this thing and go. You know, I don't think we'd be where we're at right now. So I know there's still, you know, we still talk about whatever term you want to use, delays, pauses, whatever. I think I'm just giving you my opinion. We did the right thing. I don't think we hurt people. And I think as a result of what we are doing, we are moving forward to take care of people. I've told you guys before, I'll tell you again, my wife and I plan on retiring here. I can give you down to the day if you want to know it. And I'm not going anywhere. So I'm going to be here to be held responsible. We'll keep driving this thing forward. Trust me, I get regular guidance from the governor and the staff as to, hey, keep this thing moving, take care of stuff. So I think we've got it. I think we're moving forward. I would tell you to close out my comments piece of this, you can probably tell from my voice, I'm pleased with where we are at the 60-day point of us having taken this thing on. By no means do I consider us to be in a position to pat ourselves on the back or anything like that. We got lots of work to do, lots of stuff to keep moving forward on. I get regular feedback from my boss to make sure that that's getting done, and we're going to do it. So we are not going to go out of here today slapping ourselves on the back. We're going to go out of here saying we've made good progress and this thing is moving in the right direction. And next Friday, I'm going to be excited to see where ASP and our faith-based groups and others and additional mobile homes and bridges. We've got, and I'll give you one last example. We got a bridge that serves 17 families that in order to get it moving, we've got some other bureaucratic technical things that got to be done related to plans and moving dollars and those kind of things. You know, it's frustrating that is the case, but the system is set up for a reason, and our job is to work through the bureaucracy of the system and make it work to the advantage of the people. So with that, I'll turn it over to you guys for questions.
I don't want to be unfair because I'm only seeing a small slice of the pie with the places that I know. But it looks like you guys have made some real progress, done the heavy lifting. You've got trailers on the sites, a couple of places where I've been to, but they haven't been able to move in. Why can't they just kind of close the deal part of it? You know, it seemed like two guys could hook the thing up in a day and they could be in it.
Yeah, although there's a whole series of requirements, you know, that are a lot of which are put in place by both us from the state and the federal side to make sure that, you know, if a sewer line gets run the wrong way or a gas line, God forbid, gets hooked up the wrong way and we blow a trailer, a mobile home unit with a family up in it. So, yeah, it's as frustrating, Bob, I think, to us out there on the ground and my guys on the ground, but we're doing it. And you remember I used the term deliberate speed, because what if we put a family in there, they get all settled, excited and that, and we come back and find a fundamental problem that we didn't check, and now we got to move them back out, and then this, you know, so yeah, it's I guess in a perfect world it would go a lot faster, but unfortunately we aren't living in a perfect world.
People do say that the guardsmen have been out there to inspect the work very quickly. It's been done to make sure it's correct.
Yeah, I've got some young some young guard folks that are doing some great stuff. And I guess just kind of digress on that. Most of these guys are combat engineers, and they're actually getting to practice skills that they would use in their military occupational specialty if they were building an operating base in Iraq. Same principles hold true. So we're getting some, in addition to helping people, we're getting some training value out of this.
Do you have any sort of like 30 or 60-day projections for how many cases will be wrapped up?
I don't right now, and what big piece was getting the sub grants and getting these folks going. I think within probably, and I don't want to hold my friends back here and behind you but I would say within about 2 weeks, we're going to have a pretty good feel for what our battle rhythm is going to be and the number of volunteers and others. And another piece to this too, just to make sure we understand, when we did these sub-grant agreements, and we know Housing Development does this anyway as one of our state entities, but VOAD and ASP are going to not just use volunteers and paid volunteers, but there's also going to be contract pieces to this too. So there are going to be West Virginia contractors that are going to be working with these folks too. So I think if you could give us about 2 weeks, I think I could have a pretty good idea of battle rhythm. And Jake, I guess the other piece of that is we still got some work to do and some time. So it's not going to be an immediate thing. The rehabs should go, I think, in relatively good progressive manner, but we still got till the 14th to close the date on the reconstruction contract before we can even look at bids and that piece. So
I realize the point is to help people no matter what the avenue is, and to give them the shelter and the support they need. But do you think that the state is going to spend the amount of money that had been available from HUD for housing that originally was intended versus what the reality is now?
My gut instinct right now tells me that, particularly in light of the number I gave you earlier, the 1,624 cases, that accounts for millions of dollars of donated dollars. I don't think we're going to spend the housing number allotted in that 150, and that's where, and help me lead to another point, is that now this allows us to kind of get our feet on the ground, because now we got construction moving. Next piece for us is 2 components. One is the governor's tasked us to develop a strategic process for this going forward so we don't run into these kinds of problems again. And the other is, how are we integrating this into his broader strategic vision for community redevelopment and those things. So to your point, I believe we're going to have the opportunity to sit down with HUD and take the governor's vision for the plan and what we develop and move some of those dollars into areas that will allow us to focus on community redevelopment. There is a chunk of money already in the action plan allocated for economic development. The slum and blight removal was in the action plan. So think about, if you look at the numbers on the FEMA demo piece that we did, which is the first time ever in the country that FEMA authorized a state with DISM and the Guard to do a demo program like we did. I think we may get up to 700 some structures out of the way. So when you start clearing blight and you start increasing property values and you give communities both green space and space to put a new small business or something, those are all things that the governor's saying, hey, you've got to be pulling all that together in the plan and figure out how to make this work. So I guess long answer to your question, but yeah, I think we're going to have the opportunity to work with HUD down the road to take things and use those dollars for greater community redevelopment in the future. And don't forget, we got another $106 million worth of mitigation dollars coming from the HUD side, and under the DISM side, we got about 80-some million that's being approved in chunks at a time. So one of the things we've talked about with the governor's staff and the governor is, hey, there's a lot of money going to be churning in the West Virginia economy that's going to be a good thing for us too, because as they buy supplies and subcontract and have paid volunteers and all those things, that's helping us as well. So a lot more work to be done on that development piece.
I mean, I can see that amount of money making a real difference in communities like Linden or Richwood. Do you think it's possible the total amount from the 150 million we talked about may be available to be reallocated once you've talked?
It's our understanding that the 150 doesn't leave. It's a matter of us, once we've identified and we, the state of West Virginia and HUD have agreed that we've met the housing need, we have the ability to work with them in the action plan to reallocate dollars into redevelopment, economic development, and other pieces. And then what we've got to do a good job of, Brad, is with the mitigation dollars coming, match all that up to the redevelopment piece. So if we spend something on mitigation and we improve a water system and make it more flood resistant, and at the same time use a little bit of economic development money to help a couple of businesses going, then that's what the governor's vision is, of taking this thing and turning it into a greater long-term opportunity for us from a state perspective. So makes my head hurt sometimes, a lot of work to do, but hey, it's going to be good for the state, but we can't lose sight of, we still got people that we're taking care of that day to day are struggling to get into standard housing.
Okay, so what is the National Guard doing differently that is enabling me to make this progress that wasn't being done before?
So I think we're good at taking complex problems and turning them into action. I think it's, and no disrespect to anybody else, I think part of what the governor tasked, I believe, well, I know he did, me to do was to infuse some specific leadership and hands-on leadership into this. And I would say that having folks that can take complex problems and turn them into action and action plans and infusing leadership, there's lots of good people in state government. Sometimes you just have to help them and get them the top cover that they need. That's my take.
So you're making sure people do their job?
I think if you're leading, you're not making people do their jobs. You're helping facilitate people be successful.
Anyone still working at Rise?
We have commerce staff that are part of that piece, and that's another piece that we're working as to how all that sorts out in the long term, and who sits where and where it sits.
On that note, have there been any replacements that you're aware of in Commerce? Is there a development office director or general counsel or village commerce?
Yeah, I'm not dealing with that piece of it, so I have to get other folks to answer that. All right, if not, I appreciate it again. Appreciate the patience and the support, and we will, as of now, we'll give you another update. It's going to look similar to what you got for Friday, and then we'll get back in the same same rhythm to give you hopefully some even better news next Friday.
I do have one more question. We had thought the governor would be here, and I think you did too. Is he all right?
Yeah, he's fine. He was working issues, and he asked me if I'd handle the press conference, and I said, yes, sir. And he's got a lot more complex issues to deal with related to the state of West Virginia than I do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything about the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
We don't have to replace it, we change the